Hi friends, welcome to Talevora. Today, we uncover the extraordinary life of Vincent van Gogh, a journey filled with dreams, rejection, heartbreak, loneliness, passion, and an unforgettable legacy. From a man who sold only one painting during his lifetime to becoming one of the greatest artists in history, this is the untold story of a genius who was never truly appreciated until after his death. What drove him to create masterpieces? Why did he cut off his own ear? And how did a man who died poor become one of the most valuable artists the world has ever known? Let's begin. Vincent van Gogh entered the world on March 30, 1853, in the quiet village of Zundert in the Netherlands. At first glance, his life seemed ordinary. His father was a respected pastor, his mother loved art and nature, and their home was peaceful compared to many families of that time. But there was something unusual about Vincent's birth that would quietly shape his entire life. Exactly 1 year before he was born, his parents had another son. They gave him the name Vincent. Sadly, that baby was born dead. When another son arrived exactly 1 year later, they gave him the very same name, Vincent Willem van Gogh. Every Sunday as a child, Vincent walked past a grave that carried his own name and birth date, except the year was 1 year earlier. Imagine growing up seeing your own name written on a tombstone. Many historians believe this left a deep emotional scar that followed him throughout his life. Even before he understood what death truly meant, he was constantly reminded that another child had existed before him. Perhaps that is why Vincent often felt different from everyone around him. As a young boy, Vincent was quiet, thoughtful, and unusually serious. While other children laughed and played together, he preferred wandering alone through fields, forests, and countryside paths. Nature fascinated him. He could spend hours watching birds fly across the sky, studying trees moving gently in the wind, or observing sunlight changing the colors of flowers. His mother encouraged him to draw simple sketches of plants and landscapes, never realizing those innocent drawings were the first steps toward creating some of history's greatest masterpieces. Despite his intelligence, Vincent struggled to fit into school. He found it difficult to connect with classmates and often preferred silence over conversation. Teachers described him as polite but distant. Even at a young age, he seemed to carry emotions far deeper than most children his age. His family hoped that as he grew older he would become more confident, but instead he became even more withdrawn. At the age of 16, Vincent left school and began working for Goupil & Cie, one of Europe's largest art dealerships. It sounded like the perfect opportunity. Surrounded by paintings every day, he learned about famous artists, wealthy collectors, and the growing art market. His employers noticed his intelligence and dedication. They transferred him first to The Hague, then to London, and later to Paris. It seemed his future was becoming brighter with every promotion. Then something happened that completely changed him. While living in London, Vincent fell deeply in love with a young woman named Eugenie Loyer, the daughter of the family with whom he rented a room. For the first time in his life, he imagined building a future with someone he truly cared about. Gathering every bit of courage he had, Vincent confessed his feelings. She rejected him. Not only was she already engaged to another man, but she reportedly laughed at the idea that Vincent believed she could ever love him. That single rejection shattered his heart. Friends noticed he became unusually quiet, withdrawn, and emotionally distant. The cheerful young employee who once worked enthusiastically inside the art gallery slowly disappeared. Instead, Vincent began questioning the meaning of life itself. His performance at work declined rapidly. He no longer cared about selling expensive paintings to wealthy customers. In fact, he began criticizing the art business, believing it valued money more than genuine beauty. His employers became frustrated. Eventually, they dismissed him. Suddenly unemployed, heartbroken, and uncertain about his future, Vincent searched desperately for purpose. He believed perhaps God had another plan for his life. Inspired by his father's profession, he decided to become a preacher. He studied religion with incredible determination, hoping to dedicate his life to helping others. Unfortunately, his academic results were disappointing. He failed several important examinations and never officially became a minister. Still refusing to give up, Vincent traveled to the poor mining region of Borinage in Belgium, where he worked as a missionary among coal miners. Unlike many religious workers of his time, Vincent genuinely lived like the people he served. He gave away most of his clothes, shared his food with struggling families, slept in simple conditions, and cared for injured workers after dangerous mining accidents. The miners respected him because he truly understood their suffering. Church officials, however, were shocked. They believed Vincent had gone too far. Instead of looking like a respectable preacher, he dressed like the poor people he served. His appearance became rough, his clothes worn out, and his health declined. Eventually, church leaders dismissed him from his missionary position. Once again, Vincent had failed. Standing alone with no stable career, no relationship, no financial security, and no clear future, he entered one of the darkest periods of his life. It was during those lonely days that something extraordinary happened. While walking through the countryside, Vincent picked up a pencil and began sketching the people around him. Miners, farmers, workers, old women carrying baskets, children playing in dusty streets. For the first time in years, he felt completely alive. Every drawing gave him peace that nothing else ever had. At 27 years old, an age when many artists had already built successful careers, Vincent made the most important decision of his life. He would become an artist. Almost everyone around him believed he was making another terrible mistake. They had no idea that history was about to witness the birth of one of the greatest painters the world would ever know. After deciding to become an artist at the age of 27, Vincent van Gogh faced a challenge that most people never have to face. He had almost no formal artistic training. While other painters spent years studying in prestigious academies, Vincent had to teach himself almost everything from the beginning. He practiced day and night, filling notebooks with sketches of hands, faces, old shoes, chairs, trees, and ordinary people. He believed that before anyone could paint beauty, they first had to understand reality. Every mistake became another lesson. Every failed drawing pushed him to try again. His determination was extraordinary, but the road ahead would become even more difficult. Financially, Vincent had almost nothing. The only person who truly believed in him was his younger brother, Theo van Gogh. Theo worked as an art dealer in Paris and loved Vincent deeply. Every month he sent money so his brother could buy food, paint, brushes, and canvas. Without Theo's support, Vincent would probably have been forced to abandon painting forever. Their relationship became one of the most beautiful stories in art history. They exchanged hundreds of letters discussing dreams, fears, paintings, and the meaning of life. Those letters later helped the world understand the man behind the masterpieces. Vincent's first major works focused on ordinary working people. He admired farmers because he believed they lived honest lives. Instead of painting kings, queens, or wealthy businessmen, he painted people whose hands were rough from years of hard labor. One of his earliest masterpieces, The Potato Eaters, showed a poor family sitting together around a table sharing a simple meal. Their faces were tired, their clothes worn, and the room was dark. Critics hated it. They called the painting ugly and depressing. But Vincent defended his work proudly. He said he wanted viewers to understand that these people had earned their food honestly with the same hands now reaching for the potatoes. Although critics rejected him, Vincent continued learning. In 1886 he moved to Paris to live with Theo. That decision completely changed his artistic style. style. Paris introduced him to young painters experimenting with brighter colors and new techniques. Artists like Claude Monet, Edgar Degas, Camille Pissarro, and others inspired him to see light differently. Instead of using only dark earth tones, Vincent began filling his paintings with brilliant yellows, blues, greens, and reds. His brushstrokes became faster, bolder, and more expressive. He no longer wanted to paint exactly what he saw. He wanted to paint what he felt. Despite this artistic growth, Vincent remained lonely. Social situations exhausted him. He desperately wanted close friendships but often struggled to keep them. Many people admired his passion but found his intense personality difficult to understand. He spoke with overwhelming emotion about art, life, religion, and human suffering. Some considered him brilliant. Others believed he was unstable. Eventually, Vincent left crowded Paris searching for peace. He traveled south to the small French town of Alès. The moment he arrived, he fell in love with the bright sunshine, golden wheat fields, colorful flowers, and endless blue skies. He believed he had finally discovered the perfect place to create the greatest paintings of his life. He rented a small yellow house that would later become famous around the world. Vincent dreamed of transforming it into an artist's community where creative people could live and work together, inspiring one another every day. One person he especially hoped would join him was the talented painter Paul Gauguin. Vincent admired Gauguin's work and believed they could create something extraordinary together. After months of persuasion, Gauguin finally agreed to come. At first, everything seemed wonderful. The two artists painted together, discussed ideas for hours, and explored the beautiful countryside. Vincent worked with unbelievable energy. Sometimes he completed an entire painting in a single day. Sunflowers, orchards, cafes, bedrooms, bridges, and peaceful landscapes poured from his imagination. Today these paintings are celebrated worldwide, but living together soon became difficult. Vincent and Gauguin had completely different personalities. Vincent was emotional, sensitive, and unpredictable. Gauguin was confident, independent, and often critical. Their conversations gradually turned into arguments. Every disagreement became more intense than the last. Friends noticed the growing tension inside the Yellow House. Then came the night that would become one of the most shocking moments in art history. After another serious argument, Gauguin decided he had had enough. He announced he was leaving Alès forever. Vincent was devastated. Losing another important relationship felt unbearable. Something inside him seemed to break. Later that night, during what many historians believe was a severe mental health crisis, Vincent picked up a razor and cut off part of his own left ear. The incident shocked everyone. Bleeding heavily, he wrapped the injured ear in cloth and reportedly delivered it to a local woman before collapsing from exhaustion. Police found him shortly afterward and took him to a hospital. News spread quickly through the town. Many local residents became frightened of Vincent. They began calling him mad. Some even signed petitions demanding that he be removed from the neighborhood. The artist who dreamed of creating beauty had suddenly become known as the strange man everyone feared. But even after experiencing one of the darkest moments of his life, Vincent van Gogh refused to stop painting. In fact, his greatest masterpieces were still waiting to be created. Following the incident in Alès, Vincent van Gogh was admitted to a hospital where doctors treated both his physical injuries and his worsening mental condition. News of what had happened spread quickly, and many people now viewed him not as a gifted artist, but as a dangerous and unstable man. The townspeople who had once ignored him now feared him. Some even signed a petition demanding that he leave the town. For Vincent, it was another heartbreaking rejection. Throughout his life, he had searched for acceptance, but once again he found himself completely alone. Realizing that he needed help, Vincent made one of the bravest decisions of his life. In May 1889, he voluntarily entered the St. Paul de Muscle Psychiatric Hospital in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. Unlike the dark hospitals many people imagine, the asylum was surrounded by beautiful gardens, olive trees, rolling hills, and peaceful countryside. Although he was a patient, Vincent was allowed to paint whenever his health permitted. Art became more than a passion. It became his only escape from the storms inside his mind. Life inside the asylum was unpredictable. Some days Vincent felt calm and hopeful. On those days, he painted from sunrise until sunset with incredible energy. Other days were much darker. He suffered frightening mental episodes that left him confused, exhausted, and unable to work. During those difficult periods, he questioned whether he would ever recover. Yet every time he became strong enough to hold a paintbrush again, he returned to the canvas without hesitation. It was inside the walls of that hospital that Vincent created some of the greatest paintings in human history. Every morning he looked through the window of his small room and watched the changing sky. The movement of clouds, the rising sun, and the quiet hills inspired him. Instead of painting exactly what he saw, he painted the emotions those landscapes created inside him. His brushstrokes became even more energetic. Colors became brighter. The sky seemed alive, the trees appeared to dance, and every landscape carried powerful emotion. Then came one extraordinary night. Vincent looked out through the window and saw the stars shining above the peaceful village below. Most people would simply have seen a beautiful night sky. Vincent saw something entirely different. He imagined the stars moving like giant waves across the heavens. The moon glowed with incredible intensity. The entire sky seemed alive with energy. The next morning he began painting. That painting would later become known as the Starry Night. Today it is considered one of the greatest paintings ever created. Millions of people travel across the world every year simply to stand before it inside the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Ironically, when Vincent painted it, almost nobody cared. No crowds gathered to admire his work. No wealthy collectors rushed to buy it. It was simply another painting created by a lonely man living inside a psychiatric hospital. During his stay, Vincent also painted cypress trees, olive groves, wheat fields, flowering gardens, rocky mountains, and quiet village streets. Every canvas reflected not only the beauty of nature but also the emotions inside his heart. His paintings were becoming increasingly bold, expressive, and unlike anything the art world had ever seen before. Theo continued supporting his brother through letters and financial help. Those letters became Vincent's greatest source of encouragement. Whenever he doubted himself, Theo reminded him to keep painting. Vincent often replied that although life remained difficult, painting gave him a reason to continue living. Eventually doctors believed Vincent had improved enough to leave the asylum. He moved to the small French village of Auvers-sur-Oise, where he came under the care of Dr. Paul Gachet, a physician who also appreciated art. Vincent immediately returned to painting with unbelievable determination. During only the final months of his life, he completed nearly one painting every single day. Wheat fields, cottages, gardens, village roads, portraits, and dramatic landscapes poured from his imagination faster than ever before. Friends who saw him during this period described him as calm on some days and deeply troubled on others. Although his artistic confidence had grown enormously, his financial struggles continued. He still depended almost entirely on Theo's support. Worst of all, Vincent believed he had become a burden to the brother who had sacrificed so much for him. At the same time, Theo faced problems of his own. His health was declining, and difficulties at work created financial pressure. Vincent quietly worried that his brother could no longer continue supporting him. The thought filled him with guilt. He loved Theo more than anyone else in the world and feared he had failed him despite all the sacrifices Theo had made. Yet Vincent refused to stop painting. Almost every day he walked into the countryside carrying his easel, paints, brushes, and canvas. The endless wheat fields surrounding Auvers became some of his favorite subjects. Under changing skies filled with dramatic clouds, he painted with incredible speed, as though he somehow knew time was running out. Without realizing it. The final chapter of Vincent van Gogh's remarkable life was only days away. During the final weeks of his life, Vincent van Gogh painted with an intensity that amazed everyone around him. It was as if he knew time was running out. Every sunrise became another opportunity to create something beautiful. Every field, every tree, every cloud, and every ray of sunlight seemed precious to him. In only a few months, he completed nearly 70 paintings. Most artists would consider that the work of several years. Vincent achieved it while carrying emotional pain that very few people could imagine. The wheat fields surrounding Auvers-sur-Oise became some of his favorite subjects. He walked through them almost every day carrying his easel, brushes, and paint box. The endless golden fields beneath dramatic skies reflected exactly how he felt inside, beautiful yet filled with uncertainty. One of his final masterpieces, Wheatfield with Crows, showed dark birds flying above a lonely road disappearing into the distance. Many people later believed the painting symbolized Vincent's troubled state of mind. Others argued that it simply reflected nature as he saw it. Whatever the truth may be, the painting remains one of the most emotional works in art history. Despite continuing to paint, Vincent never escaped his financial struggles. He still relied almost entirely on his younger brother Theo. Every letter between the two brothers revealed deep love and gratitude. Vincent often apologized for depending on Theo for so many years. He believed his brother deserved a happier life without carrying the responsibility of supporting him. Unknown to Vincent, Theo never considered him a burden. He believed completely in his brother's talent and remained convinced that one day the world would finally recognize it. Sadly, that recognition did not arrive while Vincent was alive. During his lifetime, he sold only one confirmed painting, The Red Vineyard. The amount he received was small, and it changed nothing about his difficult financial situation. Imagine spending years creating hundreds of extraordinary works while almost nobody wanted to buy them. Most people would have given up. Vincent continued because painting was never just about money. It was the only way he knew how to express his soul. On July 27, 1890, Vincent left his room carrying his painting equipment as he had done so many times before. He walked toward the nearby wheat fields. Exactly what happened there remains one of history's unanswered questions. According to the traditional account, Vincent suffered a gunshot wound to his chest, believed to be self-inflicted. However, some modern historians have questioned that conclusion, suggesting other possibilities. Despite years of research, no one knows with complete certainty what truly happened in those final moments. Remarkably, Vincent managed to walk back to the inn where he was staying. The people there immediately realized he had been seriously injured. Doctors were called as quickly as possible, but the wound was too severe to treat successfully. When Theo received the news, he rushed immediately to his brother's bedside. The two brothers spent Vincent's final hours together. Witnesses later recalled that Theo held Vincent's hand while speaking softly to him. The man who had believed in Vincent when nobody else did refused to leave his side. During the early morning of July 29, 1890, Vincent van Gogh passed away at only 37 years old. His reported final words were simple yet heartbreaking: "The sadness will last forever." Only a handful of people attended his funeral. There were no enormous crowds. No famous critics praised his work. No museums competed to display his paintings. His canvases surrounded the room where his funeral took place, almost as if they were silently saying goodbye to the man who had created them. The greatest tragedy came only months later. Theo, devastated by the loss of his beloved brother, fell seriously ill and died less than 6 months after Vincent. The two brothers who had supported one another throughout life were finally buried side by side. For a short time, it seemed history had forgotten Vincent van Gogh forever. But history had made a terrible mistake. Years passed. Art collectors slowly began noticing the extraordinary emotion inside Vincent's paintings. Museums started exhibiting his work. Critics who had once ignored him now described him as a revolutionary genius. Prices for his paintings rose higher and higher until they became some of the most valuable works of art ever created. Today, Vincent van Gogh is recognized as one of the greatest artists in human history. His paintings hang inside the world's most famous museums. Millions of people travel across continents just to stand before the Starry Night, sunflowers, irises, wheat field with crows, and dozens of other masterpieces. Some of his paintings have sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. The man who could barely afford food during his lifetime became one of the most celebrated artists the world has ever known. Vincent's story teaches us something far greater than art. It reminds us that success does not always arrive immediately. Sometimes the world is simply not ready for true greatness. The man who sold only one painting during his lifetime eventually inspired millions of artists, dreamers, and ordinary people never to give up on their passion. His legacy proves that rejection does not define your future. Failure does not erase your talent. And sometimes, the people the world ignores today become the legends remembered forever. If you enjoyed this true story and want more real stories about extraordinary people who changed history, subscribe to Talevora and join us on another unforgettable journey. Because every legend hides a secret, and every secret has a story waiting to be told.